The alien princess and the human rebel, a love that could shatter the empire. The empire ruled the stars with cold order and sharp fear. Its ships moved like dark shadows between worlds, watching, judging, and taking whatever they wanted. Many alien races served the empire because they had no choice. Others were crushed when they resisted. Humans were one of those who resisted. Far from the bright imperial capital, a human colony world called Haven lived under constant pressure. Imperial patrols filled the sky and alien officers controlled food, travel, and work. Humans were called weak, short-lived, and dangerous. The Empire believed humans could never accept control, so they were treated as a problem to be erased. Ethan Cole grew up on Haven. He was not born a soldier. His parents were miners, quiet people who only wanted to survive. When Ethan was 15, an imperial raid destroyed their settlement after a small protest. His parents did not survive. After that day, Ethan stopped believing in peace with the Empire. Years later, Ethan became a rebel. He was lean, fast, and calm under pressure. He did not shout or boast. He listened, planned, and acted when the moment was right. Other rebels trusted him because he never wasted lives. To them, he was a symbol of human will. On the other side of the stars, Princess Alara stood on a balcony of crystal and metal. The imperial capital world was beautiful, but it felt empty to her. Towers rose into the sky like frozen lightning. Ships floated in perfect lines. Everything was clean and silent. Alara was the only child of Emperor Varak. From a young age, she was taught history, strategy, and law. She learned how the Empire spread order across the galaxy. She also learned what happened to those who resisted. Those lessons were meant to harden her heart. But Alara's heart never fully accepted them. She often watched the stars and wondered about the worlds beyond the Empire's stories. She asked questions her tutors did not like. Why did humans fight so hard if they were truly weak? Why did some alien worlds rebel again and again? Why was fear needed if the Empire was just? Those questions stayed with her, even when she smiled and played her role. One day, Alara was ordered to travel aboard an Imperial diplomatic cruiser. The mission was simple. Observe a border region near human space and show Imperial strength. Emperor Varak wanted to remind nearby systems that the Empire was always watching. The ship was powerful, guarded by escorts and filled with elite soldiers. Alara felt safe but uneasy. Something about traveling so close to human territory made her nervous in a way she could not explain. Meanwhile, Ethan and his rebel cell prepared for a risky mission. Intelligence reports showed an Imperial convoy passing near Haven. The rebels did not know a princess was aboard. They only knew the convoy carried high-value targets and advanced technology. Ethan studied the star maps with care. The rebels had old ships and limited weapons, but they had surprise. He planned a fast strike, just enough to damage the convoy and steal supplies. As the rebel ships moved into position, space grew quiet. Stars burned in the distance. The moment felt heavy, like the universe was holding its breath. The attack came fast. Human ships burst from hiding and fired at the convoy escorts. Explosions lit the dark like sudden suns. Imperial alarms screamed. Soldiers rushed to stations. Alara felt the ship shake under her feet. Fear ran through her, sharp and real. This was not a lesson or a story. This was war. The rebel attack was stronger than expected. One escort ship was destroyed. Another was crippled. The cruiser carrying Alara took a direct hit. Systems failed. Power flickered. Ethan watched the damage reports and made a hard choice. If they stayed longer, Imperial reinforcements would arrive. He ordered a retreat, but fate had already shifted. The cruiser lost control and fell out of jump space. It crashed toward a nearby moon, its hull burning. Escape pods launched in all directions. Alara was forced into a pod by her guards. Moments later, she felt the violent pull of descent. The pod slammed into the moon's surface and went silent. When Alara awoke, everything hurt. The pod was cracked. Smoke filled the air. Her royal uniform was torn and stained. For the first time in her life, no guard stood nearby. She stepped out into a harsh, gray landscape. The moon was cold and broken, with sharp rocks and low gravity. The sky was black, filled with distant stars. Fear tried to take hold, but Alara forced herself to breathe. She was trained for survival, at least in theory. She activated the pod's beacon, hoping Imperial forces would find her. She did not know the rebels were already close. Ethan's ship had tracked escape pods as they scattered. Most were heading toward empty space. One signal caught his attention. It was moving toward the moon. Against orders, Ethan followed it. He landed his ship carefully and stepped onto the surface with his weapon ready. The moon was quiet, almost dead. Then he saw her. Alara stood near the broken pod, trying to repair a damaged panel. She turned when she heard his footsteps. Their eyes met for the first time. Ethan froze. This was no armored officer, no alien monster. She looked young, frightened, and very alone. Her features were alien but soft, her eyes wide with shock. Alara felt the same confusion. This human did not look like the savage rebel she had been warned about. He looked tired, scarred, and human in a way she could not deny. Neither spoke at first. Then Ethan raised his weapon, his training returning. "Don't move," he said in a low voice. Alara slowly lifted her hands. Her voice shook but remained calm. "I am unarmed." Ethan searched the area and confirmed it. No guards, no traps, just one escape pod and one alien woman. He realized who she must be when he saw the imperial insignia on her torn sleeve. A princess. Capturing her could change everything. Alara saw the shift in his eyes. She knew she was valuable, maybe more than her life. Fear returned stronger than before. "Please," she said. "I will not resist." Ethan hesitated. He had imagined this moment many times, facing the enemy directly. He expected anger, hatred. Instead, he felt something close to uncertainty. He lowered his weapon slightly. "You're coming with me." Alara nodded. She had no other choice. As they walked toward the rebel ship, Alara looked back once at the broken pod. Her old life felt suddenly distant, like a dream fading after waking. Ethan led her onto the ship and secured her in a small cabin. He reported the capture to his team, but he kept the details brief. Something told him this situation was more fragile than it appeared. As the ship lifted off the moon, Alara felt the weight of the stars around her. She was now a prisoner of the people her empire hated most. And Ethan, watching the moon shrink behind them, felt a strange sense that this mission was only the beginning of something far larger than rebellion. Both believed they understood the enemy. Both were about to learn how wrong they were. The rebel ship moved quietly through the dark space between the moon and the outer systems. Inside, Ethan watched the monitors, tracking patrol ships and plotting the fastest course to the hidden rebel base. Princess Alara sat in the corner, her hands folded, her eyes fixed on the metal walls. She felt trapped but tried to remain calm. She had never been a prisoner before, and the reality of it weighed heavily on her. Ethan kept his distance. He did not trust her completely, but he also did not see her as an enemy in the moment. She was human enough to fear, alien enough to wonder about, and he knew that the Empire would stop at nothing to get her back. "Where are you taking me?" Alara asked softly, her voice steady but cautious. "Somewhere safe," Ethan replied. He did not lie, but he left out the truth. She was not just safe, she was being taken to a place where humans planned to use her presence as leverage against the Empire. Alara studied him. There was a quiet confidence in his movements, a careful control of his speech. He was unlike anyone she had ever met. Even in his simplicity, he carried authority, and she found herself unwillingly drawn to it. The ship shuddered slightly as they entered a field of debris near the outer asteroid belt. Alara clutched the edge of her seat, unused to the rough travel. Ethan noticed but said nothing, focusing on navigating the obstacles. "You are human," she asked finally. You fight your own people, Ethan frowned. We fight to live free. Humans are not weak. We survive because we have to, not because we obey. Alara thought about that. The Empire always painted humans as fragile, violent, and reckless. Yet in front of her was a human who moved with purpose, who risked life after life for survival and justice. Her assumptions felt suddenly small. They passed the field safely, and Ethan relaxed slightly. The base was still far, hidden deep in a planet system that the Empire rarely visited. Communication with the outside was limited. Spies could reach them, but only carefully. After hours of travel, they arrived at a hidden dock, where other rebel ships rested behind shields and asteroid cover. Humans moved quickly, checking systems, unloading supplies, and preparing for unknown missions. Alara's presence caused immediate whispers among the crew. Some stared openly, shocked at the sight of a princess of the Empire. Lisa Morgan, the leader of the human resistance on the base, stepped forward. She was tall, with short brown hair and sharp eyes. She looked at Alara with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Ethan, what have you done? Lisa said. Did you bring her here alive? Yes, Ethan said. She is unarmed and alone. She is a princess, but she is also a person. We need her for information. Lisa's eyes narrowed. She did not trust aliens no matter how they looked or acted. She knew how easily people could be manipulated. We cannot risk it. She is the enemy. She could be a trap. Alara listened silently. She expected hostility. She had been taught to fear humans, to assume they would see her as a target or a weapon. Yet in their anger she sensed a kind of honesty she had never felt in the Imperial Palace. Ethan turned to Alara. You will stay in the observation room. No one touches you, and you do not leave without permission. Alara nodded. The rules were simple, clear, and unlike the hidden threats of court life, almost comforting. Over the next days, Alara began to learn about human life under Empire control. She watched men and women repair ships, plan missions, and speak in quiet defiance of their oppressors. She saw fear in their eyes, but also determination, creativity, and hope. One evening, Ethan came to the observation room. He sat opposite her at a small table. You should understand something, he said. We are not your enemies, at least not in the way the Empire thinks. We fight because we must. We fight because our worlds were taken. You have a choice. Alara looked at him carefully. A choice to do what? To help us or to go back to your empire. You may think your father rules for justice, but the truth is he rules for power. Her eyes widened. She had suspected it, but hearing it from a human, a rebel, made it different. She felt both anger and shame. Anger at the lies she had been told, shame for believing them. Ethan did not speak again. He waited. Alara's thoughts ran fast. Her training, her lessons, her life of privilege, all were suddenly small pieces of a much larger galaxy. That night, Alara could not sleep. She walked the empty corridors of the base, listening to distant sounds of work and planning. She paused at the observation window, staring at the stars beyond. They were endless, and she realized how small her old life had been. The next day, Ethan brought her to meet the Council of Human Leaders. Daniel Brooks, a former pilot, and Maya Taylor, a strategist, joined Lisa in evaluating the situation. Alara stood tall, despite her nerves, and explained what she knew about Imperial fleets, patrol patterns, and weak points in the Empire's supply lines. She revealed nothing critical, only enough to show she could be trusted. Some council members were skeptical. How do we know she is not lying? One asked sharply. Alara met his gaze. Because if I wanted to lie, I would have returned to my father by now. I am here. I choose to be here. That is truth enough for now. Ethan watched the exchange. He felt a strange mixture of pride and caution. Alara had courage, intelligence, and a will that matched their own. She could be a key ally or a dangerous mistake. Over weeks, the rebels worked with Alara. She helped plan supply raids, map Imperial patrol routes, and anticipate attacks. In return, she learned about human ingenuity, humor, and resilience. She saw how ordinary people could solve impossible problems when they had no choice but to try. One evening, while reviewing maps, Ethan and Alara stayed behind in the strategy room. The conversation turned personal, away from war. "Why do you fight so hard?" she asked quietly. "You could leave, find another world, live in peace." Ethan shook his head. "Peace is not possible when freedom is stolen. I fight because I cannot do nothing. My people cannot do nothing. Every time we lose, we rise again. Every time we fall, we learn. Humans survive because we refuse to stop." Alara felt a deep respect for him. She also felt a strange warmth, a connection she could not explain. This human, once a stranger, now stirred feelings that frightened and thrilled her. Ethan noticed her eyes lingering. He felt something too, a pull he did not understand. He told himself to stay focused, but the tension between them grew quietly, like a slow fire in the cold room. The war outside the base continued. Imperial patrols grew suspicious, and skirmishes became more frequent. Alara learned the danger of each mission and the human cost of rebellion. Yet she also saw how bravery and unity could overcome far stronger foes. As weeks passed, Alara and Ethan's trust deepened. She shared stories of her childhood in the Imperial Palace, of lessons and privileges, of the loneliness and pressure of expectation. He shared memories of lost family, stolen homes, and battles fought in darkness. Both began to see the galaxy not as black and white, but as a complex web of fear, hope, and survival. And both felt the first stirrings of love, though neither admitted it aloud. It was dangerous, forbidden, and impossible, but it was there. One night, as Alara gazed at a distant human settlement through the ship's scanners, she whispered to herself, "I never knew there was another way to live." Ethan, standing nearby, heard her. He did not answer. He only watched her, realizing that the princess was no longer the figure of fear and power he had imagined. She was a person, fragile and strong, caught between two worlds. The journey ahead would test them both. The Empire would not rest, and humans could not fight alone forever. Yet in the quiet moments between plans and battles, they discovered that even in war, trust and connection could grow, and that love, even in the most unlikely place, might change the fate of many worlds. The stars outside the base sparkled coldly, but inside, two hearts began to form a bond that could alter the course of rebellion. The Empire, and their own destinous rebel base, was alive with activity. Humans moved quickly from one ship to another, carrying supplies, repairing engines, and preparing for raids on Imperial patrols. The tension in the air was constant, like a low hum that never stopped. Every action mattered, every decision could mean life or death. Alara had grown used to the rhythm of human life here. She spent her days helping Ethan and the leaders plan raids, sharing what she knew of Imperial ships, patrol routes, and weaknesses. Every detail she gave was valuable. The humans listened closely, asking questions and checking her answers. Slowly, she earned their cautious respect. Ethan walked beside her one morning as they observed the preparations for a supply raid. "You are good at this," he said quietly. "Better than most of us expected." Alara shook her head. "I have learned strategy all my life, but here you have something I never had: freedom to make choices." Ethan smiled faintly. "Sometimes choices cost everything." They reached a small hangar where rebel pilots tested their ships. The hum of engines filled the air. Small ships darted around, practicing maneuvers, while larger ships prepared for the next mission. Alara watched, fascinated. The humans moved with energy, urgency, and precision, but also with creativity. They adapted, improvised, and survived. She realized how little the Empire understood them. Lisa approached them, her face serious. "Ethan, Alara, we have a problem. Imperial scouts have been seen near the outer belt. They are searching for the missing princess." Alara stiffened. "Then they will come here." They will attack you, they will destroy everything. We are ready, Ethan said, but we need your help. You know their tactics. You can tell us how to avoid them, where to strike first if they come. Alara nodded. Fear and determination mixed inside her. She had always lived in the palace, surrounded by power, but this was real. This was life and death. She felt alive in a way she never had before. Over the next days, she worked closely with the rebel leaders. She suggested new routes for supply runs, ways to ambush patrols, and how to hide ships in asteroid fields. Each time her ideas succeeded, the humans grew more confident in her. Even Lisa, who had doubted her at first, began to rely on her judgment. One evening, Ethan and Alara were alone in the strategy room. The stars outside glimmered coldly, distant and unfeeling, but inside the room, warmth had begun to grow. "Why do you care so much about humans?" Alara asked softly. "You could leave, find another life, and let the Empire control you. Why risk everything?" Ethan leaned back, thinking. "Because if we do nothing, we are nothing. Freedom is not given, it is taken. Humans survive because we fight. And sometimes we fight for each other, not just ourselves." Alara watched him. His eyes held a fire she could not ignore. She felt a strange pull toward him, a connection she could not explain. She had been trained to command, to rule, to obey her father's orders. But here, in this room beside this human, she felt something entirely new. The next mission was dangerous. A small rebel team, led by Ethan, planned to ambush an Imperial supply convoy near a mining colony. Alara insisted on going. "I need to see it for myself," she said. "I cannot just talk about strategy. I need to understand the people I fight with." Ethan looked at her. "This is risky. If something happens to you, I understand," she said. "But I will not hide while others fight. I am part of this now." The rebels prepared for the mission. Ships were fueled, weapons checked, and crew briefed. Alara moved among them, offering advice, learning their names, and sharing quiet moments of humor. The humans, though cautious, began to trust her, seeing her not as an alien princess, but as one of them, at least in action. The ambush went better than planned. The convoy was caught in a narrow canyon near the colony. Rebel ships darted from cover, disabling engines and shields. Imperial soldiers were caught off guard. Alara guided the team from the bridge of one ship, using her knowledge of Imperial formations to give the rebels an advantage. The battle was tense. Explosions rocked the canyon and smoke filled the air. Humans moved with speed and courage. Alara felt fear, but she also felt exhilaration. She was not a princess commanding soldiers from safety. She was part of the fight, part of the rebellion. After the mission, the rebels celebrated quietly. They had captured supplies, damaged the convoy, and escaped with no lives lost. Alara stood beside Ethan, her heart racing from the battle and from being near him. "You did well," Ethan said. "Better than anyone could have expected." Alara smiled faintly. "We did it together." Their eyes met, and for a moment words were not needed. The connection between them grew stronger, though neither spoke of it. Back at the base, life continued. Imperial scouts had reported strange activity in the sector. The Empire was growing more suspicious, more dangerous. The humans prepared defenses, but they also knew that the real fight was coming, bigger and more dangerous than anything they had faced. Alara continued to work with the rebels. She learned their language, their habits, and their fears. She also began to teach them, sharing small lessons about the Empire, how soldiers thought, how patrols moved, how the Emperor might respond. Her knowledge became invaluable. One night while the base slept, Ethan and Alara stood outside looking at the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of dangers and possibilities. "Do you ever wonder," Alara asked softly, "if humans could rule as well as the Empire?" Ethan looked at her. "We are not trying to rule. We only want to live free, that is all. But maybe one day, humans and aliens can live together, not under fear, but as equals." Alara felt hope stir in her chest. She had never imagined such a future. The Empire had always taught her that humans were weak, that aliens were superior, that power was everything. Now she saw the truth in a new way. Strength was not in control or fear. It was in courage, unity, and heart. Their quiet moment was interrupted by alarms. Scouts had spotted an Imperial patrol near the base. The humans moved quickly, readying defenses. Alara stood beside Ethan, prepared to help. The patrol approached, but the rebels were ready. Ships moved out from hidden positions, firing carefully at the advancing fleet. Alara directed some of the maneuvers, using her knowledge to anticipate Imperial strategies. The patrol suffered losses and was forced to retreat. The victory was small but meaningful. Humans cheered quietly. Alara realized that even small victories could change hearts and minds. She had seen fear, courage, and determination, and she understood that rebellion was not just about fighting, it was about hope. That night, Ethan found Alara again. They spoke quietly, sharing thoughts they could not say aloud before. Both felt the weight of their growing feelings, but neither dared to admit it fully. The galaxy was too dangerous, the Empire too close, and yet the connection between them was undeniable. Alara whispered, "I never knew this life existed. I never knew humans could be so strong." Ethan took her hand gently. "And I never knew a person from the Empire could see it too. You are different, Alara. You do not just see us as weak, you see us as people." She looked at him, the stars reflecting in her eyes. "I do not know what will happen, but I know I want to be here with you, with them. I want to fight for something real." He nodded, understanding the risk, the danger, and the truth in her words. The Empire would not forgive her, the humans would continue to fight, and the path ahead would be perilous. Yet in that moment, hope was alive, and a bond was forming that could change everything. The days passed quickly. Alara and Ethan worked together, trained together, and grew closer. Their partnership became the heart of the rebellion, a symbol of trust and courage. Yet both knew that love in war was fragile, dangerous, and forbidden. As the Empire's presence grew stronger near human space, the rebels prepared for a larger conflict. Alara's knowledge and courage would be tested, Ethan's leadership and determination would be challenged, and both would face choices that could change the fate of the galaxy. In quiet moments, they found comfort in each other. They laughed, shared memories, and sometimes simply watched the stars in silence. The bond between them grew stronger with every danger faced and every victory earned. The galaxy beyond was vast, cold, and unforgiving, but in the middle of it, two hearts began to beat as one. The love that was forming between them was fragile, uncertain, and dangerous. But it was also real, powerful, and unbreakable in ways they could not yet understand. The days grew darker for the human rebels. Imperial patrols increased near their hidden base, and scouts reported strange movements in distant systems. The Empire was looking for Alara, and they would not stop until they found her. Every mission became more dangerous, and every decision carried more weight. Alara felt the pressure keenly. She had never known fear like this, not in the palace, not in the imperial court. Her father's spies could be anywhere, his soldiers could attack without warning, and her choices now affected not only her life but the lives of everyone around her. Ethan worked tirelessly alongside her. He planned raids, defended the base, and coordinated with other rebel cells. Yet he also watched Alara carefully, ensuring she stayed safe. He could see the fear behind her calm expression, and he knew that any mistake could cost them dearly. "We need to strike first," Ethan said one evening during a strategy meeting. "The Empire will not wait. If we wait, they will find us and destroy everything." Lisa Morgan nodded. "We have intel on a small convoy carrying supplies and communications equipment. If we intercept it, we can disrupt their patrols and buy time." Alara studied the maps. "The convoy is heavily guarded. A direct attack will be dangerous. We need a diversion." "What do you suggest?" Daniel Brooks asked. Alara pointed to a narrow asteroid field near the convoy's route. We can use the field to hide small ships. I can guide you through the patrols, and the convoy will never expect an ambush from there. Ethan glanced at her. You have done well before. I trust your plan. The next day, the rebel fleet prepared for the mission. Small ships moved into hidden positions among the asteroids, while larger ships remained ready to strike. Alara stayed on the bridge of Ethan's command ship, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. As the convoy approached, the rebels sprang into action. Ships darted from cover, firing at the escort vessels. Explosions rocked the space around them, and smoke and debris filled the void. Alara directed the movements with precision, predicting Imperial reactions and helping the rebels stay ahead. The battle was intense. One rebel ship was damaged and several soldiers were injured. Alara moved quickly, assisting with emergency repairs and calming the crew. Ethan fought at her side, his determination unwavering. Together, they guided the rebels to victory, capturing supplies and disabling the convoy. When the battle ended, the rebels cheered quietly. Their victory was small but significant. Supplies were captured, patrols were delayed, and morale was high. Alara realized she was no longer an outsider. She was part of the rebellion, and the humans had begun to trust her completely. But the victory came with consequences. Imperial scouts had observed the ambush and reported back to the Empire. The Emperor's anger grew, and he ordered a fleet to track the rebels' hidden base. Alara knew that the Empire's response would be swift and brutal. We need to prepare for the worst, Ethan said as he reviewed the reports. They will come for us and they will not hold back. Alara nodded. We must evacuate civilians and strengthen defenses. We cannot let the Empire destroy everything we have built. Over the next days, the rebels worked tirelessly. Ships were repaired, defenses strengthened, and civilians moved to safer locations. Alara taught the rebels new strategies, using her knowledge of the Empire's tactics. She also trained with Ethan, learning how to fight in space battles, how to move quickly, and how to anticipate enemy actions. Their bond grew stronger with each passing day. They shared quiet moments, laughter, and small acts of care. Ethan would bring her food, help her with equipment, and sometimes simply stand with her, watching the stars in silence. Alara found comfort in his presence, feeling a connection she had never known before. One night as they prepared for a potential attack, Alara and Ethan stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, cold and distant. "Do you think we can win?" Alara asked softly. Ethan looked at her, his eyes serious. "We have to. We may not be strong enough to destroy the Empire, but we are strong enough to survive, to fight, and to protect what we care about. That is enough for now." Alara felt hope stir in her chest. She had lived a life of control and privilege, but here, among humans fighting for their freedom, she felt real strength, courage, and purpose. Suddenly, alarms blared. Imperial ships had been detected near the base. The fleet was larger than expected, and the humans knew this battle would be deadly. "Prepare for combat," Ethan shouted. "Everyone to stations, defend the base at all costs." The rebels moved quickly, activating shields, arming weapons, and taking positions. Alara stayed on the bridge, coordinating defenses and giving instructions. Her calm voice helped steady the humans around her, giving them courage in the face of overwhelming odds. The Imperial fleet attacked with precision. Lasers cut through space, striking rebel ships and defenses. Explosions lit the dark void, and the sound of alarms filled every corridor. Civilians hid in shelters while fighters engaged the enemy. Ethan led a counterattack, guiding ships to flank the enemy. Alara assisted, predicting Imperial movements and giving the rebels an advantage. The battle raged for hours, each side refusing to yield. During a critical moment, an Imperial ship broke through the outer defenses, heading directly for the base's central command. Alara acted quickly, directing a small team to intercept the ship. They fought with determination, using every tactic she had taught them. The battle was brutal. Rebel ships were damaged and lives were lost. Alara felt fear, anger, and grief, but she did not falter. She fought beside Ethan, her courage inspiring those around her. Together, they managed to destroy the ship before it reached the command center. The victory was hard-won. The Imperial fleet retreated, damaged and frustrated. The rebels had survived, but at great cost. Alara walked among the wounded, helping where she could, her heart heavy with sorrow and determination. Ethan approached her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "You saved lives today. Without you, we would have lost everything." Alara looked at him, her eyes filled with emotion. "I did what I had to do. I could not stand by and do nothing." Their eyes met, and in that moment the bond between them deepened. They had faced death together, fought side by side, and survived. The connection they felt was no longer just trust. It was something stronger, more personal, and impossible to ignore. As the base began repairs, Alara and Ethan spoke with the rebel council. They knew the Empire would return, stronger and more determined. Preparations for evacuation, defense, and further strikes would be needed. Alara's knowledge of the Empire had become essential, and her presence inspired hope among the rebels. Yet danger was never far. Spies, traitors, and Imperial forces threatened their safety constantly. Alara realized that even among allies, trust had to be earned, and vigilance could not be relaxed. She felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her, heavier than any crown she had worn in the palace. One evening, as the base rested, Ethan and Alara found a quiet moment together. They walked among the ships, the stars reflecting in their eyes. "Do you ever think about what comes after this?" Alara asked softly. "If we survive, what then?" Ethan looked at her, his expression serious. "Then we build a future worth fighting for. We protect those we care about, and we make sure freedom is never taken away again. But that is far from now. Right now, we survive and we fight." Alara nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Survival, trust, and courage were all that mattered in this moment. Everything else was uncertain. As they stood together, the sounds of the base quieted around them. For a brief time, the galaxy outside felt distant, unimportant. Here, in the midst of chaos and war, they found solace in each other. But the Empire was not finished. Alara knew that every victory brought greater danger. Ethan understood that the love and trust growing between them could be a source of strength, or a weakness the Empire might exploit. The next days would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. Betrayals, attacks, and impossible choices awaited. The human rebellion was no longer just about survival. It was about hope, unity, and the courage to defy a galaxy-spanning empire. Alara and Ethan had grown close, their bond deepened by battle and shared purpose. Yet both understood that love in war was fragile, and every moment could be their last. Still, they held on to each other, drawing strength from a connection that might be the key to survival, and perhaps the spark that could change the fate of the galaxy itself. The Empire's wrath had grown stronger. After the failed attack on the rebel base, Emperor Varak ordered a massive fleet to hunt down the humans and capture Princess Alara. The fleet was larger than anything the rebels had ever faced. Every planet in the sector was warned to prepare for war. The Empire wanted total control, and failure was not allowed. Ethan stood on the command deck of the rebel flagship, staring at the star maps. Every route, every supply line, every hidden path had been considered. Yet even with all their planning, he knew the Empire's force was overwhelming. Alara stood beside him, her hands clenched. She had studied the Emperor's tactics for years, but now she realized the full weight of his power. Still, she did not falter. She had seen humans survive impossible odds, and she believed they could fight again, even against a fleet larger than her imagination. "We cannot win by force alone," Alara said. We must use strategy, deception, and the courage of every person here. Ethan nodded. We do not have the numbers, but we have determination. We fight because we have to, and we fight because we believe. The rebel council gathered in the strategy room. Lisa Morgan, Daniel Brooks, and Maya Taylor, along with other leaders, discussed every possible plan. They knew one mistake could destroy everything. Alara shared her knowledge of Imperial fleet movements and weak points. She pointed out where patrols were predictable and where supply routes could be sabotaged. The humans listened carefully, weighing every word. "We will split the fleet," Ethan said finally. "Small strike teams will harass patrols, disable supply lines, and distract the main force. The rest of us will stay hidden and wait for the right moment to strike at the Emperor's flagship." "And how do we know he will come?" Lisa asked. "He will not ignore his daughter," Alara replied firmly. "And when he comes, he will underestimate the humans. That is our advantage." Preparations began immediately. Ships were fueled, weapons loaded, and crews briefed. Civilians were evacuated to safer locations, and hidden caches of supplies were distributed across nearby systems. Everyone knew the risk. Every human on the fleet understood that this battle could decide the fate of their species. The first strike teams moved out, small ships darting through asteroid fields and debris, ambushing patrols and slowing the Imperial advance. Alara coordinated from the command ship, her voice calm and precise. Every decision she made saved lives and kept the humans one step ahead. Ethan led a team to sabotage a major supply line. The mission was dangerous, and every moment required courage and skill. Explosions lit the dark void as they moved through enemy territory, and Alara's guidance proved invaluable. They succeeded, delaying the Imperial fleet and giving the rebels a chance to regroup. Days passed with tension and small victories. Every success brought hope, every loss brought grief. The humans fought tirelessly, inspired by Alara's knowledge and courage and by Ethan's determination. Slowly, the impossible seemed possible. Finally, the Emperor himself arrived with his flagship. The humans could see it in the distance, a massive ship bristling with weapons, glowing cold and menacing. Varak's presence was overwhelming, yet the rebels did not falter. They had prepared for this moment, and every plan they had made depended on courage, trust, and timing. Alara stood at the front of the command deck. She had to face her father, the man who had ruled her life and trained her to obey. Yet now, she was no longer a child under his control. She was a leader, a strategist, and a fighter. She looked at Ethan, who gave her a reassuring nod. Together, they could face anything. The battle began. Lasers tore through space, ships maneuvered with precision, and explosions lit the void. The humans used every tactic, every strategy, and every trick to counter the Imperial force. Alara directed movements, predicted enemy attacks, and helped coordinate strikes. Her presence inspired courage, even in those who had doubted her. At a critical moment, Alara and Ethan led a daring assault on the Emperor's flagship. Small human ships darted through defenses, exploiting weaknesses only Alara knew. They reached the central command and prepared to confront Varak directly. Inside the flagship, Alara faced her father. Varak's expression was a mixture of anger, disbelief, and authority. "Alara," he said coldly, "you betray your blood, your empire, your duty." Alara stood tall. "I do not betray life, I do not betray freedom. I fight for those who cannot fight for themselves." Varak sneered. "Humans are weak, you are weak." "Strength is not in fear," Alara replied. "Strength is in courage, in hope, in love. You do not understand it." The Emperor's fury unleashed. He ordered attacks on the rebel fleet, but Alara had predicted his moves. She guided the humans to intercept and counter every strike. Ethan fought at her side, commanding ships, leading crews, and protecting the rebels. Together they moved as one, human and alien, strategy and courage combined. Finally, the moment came. Alara and Ethan coordinated a direct strike on the Emperor's command systems. Human ships hit precise points, disabling weapons and shields. The Emperor's flagship faltered, its systems failing, and the tide of the battle shifted. Varric realized his defeat and attempted to escape, but Alara confronted him. With calm determination, she exposed the Empire's lies to the galaxy. Communication systems broadcasted the truth. The Empire had ruled through fear, oppression, and lies. Many alien worlds turned against Varric instantly, and his power collapsed. The battle ended. The Imperial fleet retreated, broken and disorganized. Humans and allied alien races celebrated, though the cost had been high. Lives were lost, worlds damaged, and scars remained, but freedom had been won. Alara gave up her claim to the throne. She would not rule the Empire, but she would help build a new future. Ethan stood beside her, tired, wounded, but smiling. Their bond had grown through battle, courage, and shared purpose. They had survived the impossible and created a future together. Rebel leaders gathered to discuss peace, rebuilding, and alliances. Humans and aliens worked side by side, learning from each other, teaching each other, and planning a galaxy where freedom was valued above power. In quiet moments, Alara and Ethan walked among the stars, sometimes talking, sometimes silent. The bond between them was stronger than ever, forged in danger, trust, and love. They understood the risk, yet they also understood that love, like courage, could shape the future. Alara reflected on her life before the rebellion. The palace, the lessons, the lies all seemed distant. She had discovered humanity, bravery, and hope. She had fought, learned, and loved. She had changed, and she had helped change the galaxy. Ethan looked at her and smiled. "We survived. We did it together." Alara smiled back. "And now we can live, truly live, not as prisoners of fear, but as free beings side by side." The stars stretched endlessly around them. The galaxy was vast and uncertain, but they had faced it together, fought for freedom, and discovered something stronger than fear: hope, courage, and love. The Empire had fallen. Humans and aliens would rebuild. And Alara and Ethan, princess and rebel, would face the future together, their bond a symbol of what courage, defiance, and love could achieve. In the quiet after battle, with the stars shining above, they held hands, knowing the galaxy was theirs to shape. Every world, every star system had a chance for freedom and peace. And together, they would make sure that the mistakes of the past would never return. The future was bright, uncertain, and alive. And Alara and Ethan would face it side by side, their love a light in the darkness, a promise that even in the most impossible circumstances, hope could survive and humanity could rise.